Welcome to Behind the Beer, where we go behind the scenes to discover the people and roles of producing the product we all love, craft beer. Now, here is your host, Ernest Stevenson.
Thank you, Henry. Here we are again with another episode of Behind the Beer. Today, we're at Protagonist Brewing in lower south end of Charlotte, North Carolina, with owner Mike Salzarulo.
Good job.
How you doing?
Good, how are you? You got it right. Good job.
All right, good. All right, tell us a little bit how you got into craft beer.
Craft beer. Home brewing like everybody else. I think we're a little bit different in regards to how we got started. Is me and two buddies, both named Ryan, so I'll use their last names. Owens and McKillen. We were home brewing, probably started in like 2013, 2014. We're from Ohio, and we kind of moved away from each other. I was still in Ohio. Both Ryans moved away. One was in California, one was in here in Charlotte. But that's kind of how we kind of kept connected, is we would homebrew and send our brews to each other. And then in 2017, we went on a guys trip, and we're like, we always wanted to do some kind of business together. And obviously the beer arena at that time was fruitful, and everybody was opening a brewery, and we just thought we could add something to that. None of us had any hospitality background. We just thought it was a great idea because we just loved, honestly, we fell in love with like, not just making beer, but like breweries themselves.
Right.
Like to us, like that was like where people gathered, and that's where people had a really good time. And like, and I think that's what we've kind of learned over time, is that's what we fell in love with, was gathering of people to have a great experience.
Yes.
So we decided in 2017 to do this, but then it was like, who's gonna move? Because we had to do this in one city. So
Right.
My wife and I at the time had one kid, and we decided to move to Charlotte. We had been to North Carolina a lot and fell in love with North Carolina, but moving away from friends and family was a difficult decision. But we just felt like this was the right city for us, because eventually we thought we'd move to North Carolina to retire, just obviously expediting that way sooner than we thought that would happen. So we made the decision, and from the day we quit our jobs, my background's in finance, Ryan's background's in finance, the other one's computer software background. But we thought we knew we could do this. We weren't wrong, but we were wrong about what we knew at the time. Yeah, I mean, obviously we've gone through a lot over the last 5 years, but we feel like we made the right decision, and we're really like happy with what we built here.
Protagonist, how did that name come about?
I think it goes back to kind of what we were talking about the gathering of people. And I think it's twofold. We really like the idea of people gathering and being a part of a community. And I think being a part of a community is like looking out for your community around you, and looking out for the moral good of those around you. And we're also just nerds when it comes to movies. Like we love I think like 90%, if you saw our text messages and see the conversations that we have, it's all movie quotes or GIFs now with scenes from movies.
Yep.
So we just really like the idea of naming our beers after people that matter to us. If it's real life people, if it's characters from movies that just make us laugh, or like serious people that have actually done really good things. We thought that was a great way to like celebrate people. So it was that. So it was like being a part of a community, looking out for the moral good of those around you, and then also about just marketing like people that we care about. So that was kind of the idea behind it.
Awesome. So we're drinking Hank, which is a light lager.
Yep.
So who's this name after?
Hank Hill from King of the Hill.
Awesome.
Yeah. We figured like, is there a better character to have a light American lager after than Hank Hill?
Beer.
They're loud though. It's perfect.
Yeah, and y'all absolutely nailed it on this beer too. I love it. It's like my go-to.
And as I've gotten older, it's like having like these like 7% like IPAs. My body just doesn't allow me to do it anymore.
Yep.
So this is my go-to too. Like, because I do love day drinking beer. Like it's so great. And this is probably one of the 3 beers that I can do it with.
Right.
And it's also it's tank time. It's a lager, so it takes 6 weeks to make. But it's nice to have an inexpensive beer that we can keep on tap all the time too. Yes. So this is a $4 beer we keep on draft all the time.
Awesome. Yeah. first time I had it, I was like, oh yeah, here we go.
It's actually done really well. Like, it's like, is an American light lager the beer you want to like take off? Maybe not financial, but it is a really great brand. I'm really happy that this is a beer that's like done really well for us.
Right. So you've actually had quite a few award-winning beers.
Yeah, we've had 5 GABF medals the last 3 years.
Yeah, awesome.
Yeah.
And the last one was the Saison.
Yeah, Cal-El was the most recent one.
Yeah. And that was outstanding. Gold at GABF. I mean, come on.
Yeah, I mean, obviously Jeremy is, I think if he could brew any style of beer, it'd be Saison.
Yes.
I think it's because of the Belgian heritage of his family. I think he just fell in love with that. And Saison Dupont, I think, was like the beer he would want to emulate for his whole life.
Right.
And I think, I mean, he's won 3 of the medals he's had has been in Saison. So
yep.
I think that speaks to it.
There you go. So Jeremy Clays was head brewer.
Yes.
So unfortunately, he's well. They say you can never move home again, but I guess he's moving home again.
Yeah, and honestly, like, I think the announcement happened a couple weeks ago, but I've known about it for the last 6 months. And Jeremy is still a part of we gave an equity in the business, so he's still an equity owner in the business. So it's not like he's not part of this anymore.
Right.
He's just not doing the day-to-day brewing as he was before. And he wanted to move back home where his parents are. And his significant other as well. Like they just wanted to move back to Asheville, which I can understand. Like, I moved here from Ohio for the first 3 years. Like, there was 100 times we were like, let's just go back to Ohio. It's going back home's great. But so I understand that. Like, and it was one of the things where he told me, I was like, you can't be upset. Like, if someone wants to live where their family is and be comfortable where they're living, like, you can't be mad at that. But of course, like, saying bye to 5 GABF medals is also hard as a company. But
absolutely. Are you currently looking for a head brewer or planning to promote? Or
so we did promote. So Corey, who was our assistant brewer, and honestly, over a period of time, had taken over a lot of the brews already. Obviously, with Jeremy in the background helping and making sure things were going properly. So we did have that 5 to 6 month period where Jeremy was kind of transitioning a lot of that over to him. So yeah, Corey Boat is now our head brewer.
Awesome.
And we backfilled a couple just like tactical stuff in the tap room. So we're just seeing like where that leads, and just then backfilling any other kind of positions we're going to need, because the goal over the next couple of years is to grow pretty significantly.
Yeah. Okay. Awesome.
Yep.
As owner of Protagonist, what does a typical day look like for you?
They're never the same.
There are no typical days.
Well, I mean, it's weird. You try to like keep as much of a process in place. Like, we have all of our meetings and management meetings on Tuesday, and have our production meeting on Monday. And you try to like, okay, what happened last week? What are we doing this week? And just anything else in the future, like the things that we want to like focus on. But day to day, it's honestly like, if you would ask me this question 3 years ago, I would have told you like all the like tactical things I did every single day. But like, I've tried to empower my staff to take a lot of that stuff over, especially with the idea of us expanding tap rooms over the next couple of years.
Right.
And really enhancing our outside sales and trying to keep that as close to our home as possible. Because I mean, we could go out and go to Wilmington and go to these other places and add barrelage if we wanted to. It's just it's not organic growth. It's easier to sell across the street than it is 100 miles away.
Absolutely.
So to answer your question, day to day is just empowering my staff as much as possible to do their jobs.
Awesome.
And we've done a pretty good job setting up our KPIs as a company, the things that we need to focus on. So I'm not in it every single day, because I can think of right after we opened our Noda location, like every single day I was updating menus, like printing out new menus. And I'm just like, what was I doing? But I mean, you care about something. When you build something, you like quit your job and you come and do something that's like, you really want to do a good job. But as you learn over time, like, being there every single day and looking over everybody's shoulders is not the way to succeed. You've got to empower people and let them do their jobs. So
yes,
that's so I'm here, but I let people do their jobs.
Cool. Yeah. I think that's a path to success for any business.
Yeah. It's hard. It's definitely hard.
It is.
Yeah.
Protagonist has been in business now for 4 years.
So we opened Noda in May of 2019.
Okay.
So like when we're scheduling our anniversary parties, it's like, well, which date do we go on? Do we go on this location? And now that Noda, we have basically pulled in Noda, like even like right behind us, our Noda bar is in our barrel room, and our brew house is in here now as our R&D system.
Okay.
And our lease was up in Noda, so we were like, let's just. There was a lot of reasons why to close it because we're going to expand to other tap rooms, but we opened May of 2019. In the building we're in now in Loso, we took over the lease March 1st of 2020. So 2 weeks before COVID hit. So that was awesome timing for us to go from 1,500 square feet to 15,000.
Yeah.
So we've been open in this location since we opened November 2020 in this, where we're sitting right now. So it's been 5.5 years since we've been in business.
Yeah.
4.5 years since we've been in business, but we have been in this location since November of 2020.
Okay.
Yeah.
Awesome.
Yeah.
So you're coming up on 4 years here.
Coming up on 4 years here.
Yeah.
So we did 4 years. So we're going to probably transition our anniversary to May as our official anniversary date because that makes the most sense.
Right.
Now the note is not there because having an anniversary party at a 1,500 square foot building didn't really make sense. So we just kept having it in November because that's when we opened here. But yeah, going forward, it'll be in May.
How big of an adjustment was it going from 1,500 square feet to 15,000?
Well, I mean, trying to find a silver lining of COVID. Now, you don't write your business plan to be at 50% capacity. But going from 1,500 square feet where anytime you were in the building, you could see all the employees that were there at one time, and going to this, we opened up with 50% capacity, social distancing and all that stuff. So it kind of gave us that kind of runway to get used to being a lot bigger. So that was a positive, but not getting the revenue that you hoped for when you opened the doors. But it was an adjustment for sure. I mean, especially when you're now operating a production facility that is way larger, and you're adding revenue streams that you didn't have before. So we've got private events, now you're wholesaling out into the market. Now we've got liquor as well. So it's like you add a lot of layers to it. So it did help us learn those things. Now, in a period of time that nobody knew what was going on, but it did allow us to get our feet under us to kind of understand it.
At this location and being in the South End, well, actually Lower South.
Lower South. Don't say Loso. People lose their mind over Loso.
Really?
Yeah, it's a hot topic. Lower South End versus saying Loso. And anytime you see Loso posted anywhere on anything, people lose their minds.
Really?
It's a thing.
Huh.
Yeah, it's like when you post about pizza, like some people say this pizza is the best they've ever had, and then some this is not pizza.
Yeah.
If Lower South End has the same kind of like dichotomy. If you say Loso, be like, what is that? Yeah. Let's not make this a thing. I don't know what to say anymore. So I say both. It's Lower South End, Loso, whatever you want to call it.
I don't know. I've heard it both ways.
We've heard it both ways.
I don't care. It's fine.
What's the craziest thing it's happened since?
Well, the craziest thing that happened, I mean, it's hard to say. I will say, like, early on when we were open during COVID, we did have a guy that our security was throwing out, and he did pull a weapon out, and our security had to tackle him. And like, we only had security at certain times, especially then, because we had liquor. We weren't sure what was going on, but yeah. So that was kind of nuts. And in breweries, that does not ever happen. Like, that's not a thing because we're not open late. But that was an anomaly. That was November of 20. Like, that was right after we opened.
Wow.
So that was fun.
Yeah.
But yeah, I'd say that by far was the craziest thing that's happened here.
It's like, what neighborhood have we moved into?
Yeah. I'm like, what's going on? Like, we did what? Because like, that doesn't happen to OMB. That doesn't happen like anywhere in this neighborhood. Yeah. But it was just one guy, I guess.
Wow.
He was doing some stuff he shouldn't have done in the bathroom and kicked him out, and he did not like that. So,
damn.
What are you gonna do?
So I don't think I've heard that from any other brewery before.
Yeah, we didn't really post about that. It's like, hey, this happened at our place. Yeah. So, I was thankfully security was there.
Yeah. Well, good. What do people most misunderstand about you in this industry?
About me? I don't even know. A lot of people know who I am. You try to like put your head brewer as the face of your company. I'd say just from like what people think about like people that own and operate breweries is that it just funnels in cash constantly. And like, I would say like 8 to 10 years ago, that may have been more of the case. But costs have just gotten so expensive. And competition is so difficult. I mean, just from tap room, from when we opened, there was maybe 40 breweries. Now there's 7? I don't even know how many there are.
Look up 68.
68. So it's just like, it's a constant battle to have people come into your place, and you try to create experiences that people want to come and experience. Cause it's not, nowadays, you're not just competing with other breweries. Cause like the lines have blurred now that we're a restaurant that brews its own beer. I mean, that's kind of how you have to think about it.
Right.
But things are expensive, and we can't really pass those costs along to customers, because even though our costs have gone up, income hasn't really gone up for people. So it's really hard for us to like say, hey, this costs us this amount, but we're just going to make our pizzas now $50 for you to buy. It's just not possible.
Right.
And brewing equipment is expensive. So it takes a lot of money to open a brewery. So it costs a lot to do it. But it's a great experience. Like I would not trade what we've done here with anything, because I mean, it teaches you so much. Like my background's in finance, and getting into something like this, it's very different. It's very, very different, but there's certain things that overlap. But just understanding like the personal side of it, and people coming in and experiencing what you tried to build is such a cool, that's so cool. Yeah. Like when I have people coming from out of town, or people that never experienced this place before, it's so fun to have those like initial conversations with people. Right. But back to the whole thing is like, it's impossible to really like understand. Yeah. Like this beer, what it cost us to make versus what we put on. Yeah, there's a good margin there, but like our rent, our paying off all the stuff we have here, it takes a lot of staff to put these things in front of you as well. Right. But that's what you manage. Like that's what you manage. And I think that those costs of hops and grain, all those things, and we try to use local grain, like we could go out and get super cheap grain if we really wanted to, but it's going to affect quality. Like that's number one thing is like, you don't want to affect the quality. Absolutely. And I think that has shown through, and obviously we've won 5 medals. So that does help. Right. But I'm not gonna lie, it's tempting. Sometimes you're like, we cut our grain costs down 40%. That sounds really nice. Yeah. But it has to come down to quality of beer. Absolutely. Like that's something that's just not. Absolutely. That's not something we're gonna even. Because
if your main product starts to fall off, then
it's gonna affect everything else.
Falls off.
Right. So, and we are a beer company. Right. That's what we are. Yeah, we offer a ton of stuff. Yes. Because we're big and we have private events, and there's a million things that we do here. So we've got to offer a lot. But
pretty much breweries have to nowadays.
You have to. Yeah. Because like I said earlier, it's having more things to offer to people, because not everybody is a beer drinker. And honestly, that number has fallen down even more over the past 3 to 4 years. And there's nothing wrong with that. Like, honestly, like I drink, when I go out and drink, like I have cocktails and I have bourbon and I have beer. Like if I'm out during the day, I love beer. At night, I want some cocktails. I want a plethora of different things. Right. So having that for people is important. And even in the non-alcoholic space, like having options for people, especially when you're coming to like a private event, like in the room we're in, we do private events in this room. Up in our mezzanine, we do private events, and having options for people that have been invited to, because they didn't choose to come here. They've been invited by somebody else to come experience whatever they're celebrating. Right. And this may be the first time they've been here. So having a good bourbon list, having a good cocktail list, having non-alcoholic options or whatever it may be, makes people feel welcome. And that's honestly what you're trying to do, is you're making everybody that walks in your door feel welcome, and that just because they don't like the double IPA, that they're not welcome. So just trying to offer as many things as possible. Right.
And you have an incredible bourbon list.
Thank you.
It's one of the best in the city.
I think you and I have talked about that. Yeah. I mean, it takes time, especially in North Carolina, being a controlled state. And especially when we started to build this in 2020, 2021, when anything that was at all popular was impossible to get. So it just took time and time and time. And it's a passion project, because I mean, I'm a whiskey fan. Yep. So it took time, but it's now, I think we've done a pretty good job, and we quarterly have those allocated bourbon events that we hold on to the nicer bottles that we get one.
Which I have yet to make one.
It's a free event. Like, what else can I get?
I know. It's always like, damn.
Yeah.
Not that day.
We'll have another one.
Yeah.
We might even do like a VIP pre-event for like have some nice cocktails, and we're working on something. But
Cool.
But the nice thing is like those bottles that were so like even like something like Four Roses single barrel was almost impossible to get during COVID. Now it's a little more readily available to have on the shelf, so you don't have the wow factor of what you had before, but you can still collect some really fun bottles that people will experience. And like being able to have an event where people can come in and try those things at not a crazy expensive price is
Right.
that's why I always come to those events, because I think
Yes.
they're really, really fun to engage with
Absolutely.
people. Yeah.
Absolutely. Because, I mean, a lot of times you're like, I'd much rather try that and spend $200 on a bottle.
Yeah. I mean, if you go, I mean, the only really place you can do, like, do you want like a new bottle comes out?
Mm-hmm.
Do you want to commit to the whole bottle?
Mm-hmm.
Go someplace that has it, take a pour. You can do all the way down
Absolutely.
an ounce pour and you try it. Great. Buy a
Absolutely.
bottle. If you don't, okay, glad I didn't do that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
If you could be remembered for one thing in this industry, what would it be?
Well, I'll say all this in like from the entity that is the business. I want anytime someone comes into our tap rooms, I just want them to have a great experience.
Mhm.
Because I think that's one thing we talk about just from a staff standpoint is you never know what's going on in people's lives when they walk through those doors. It could be they're coming in to celebrate something. They're coming in because they had a terrible day. It could be a myriad of reasons why you walk through those doors.
Yes.
So I just want when people come in to know they had a great experience. We treated them well, because that's the one thing we control here
Yes.
is how we treat our customers. And we're not perfect at it, like, because my staff are human beings too. They got stuff when they come in the door too. And it's a challenge. It very much is a challenge to be consistent in that day-to-day customer service experience. Because especially like on a Saturday, like Ohio State games going on, because we show all the Ohio State games. You got 600 people in here, and it's just
Especially
like
somebody from Michigan shows up.
we're nice to them. It's fine. I mean, honestly, so I'll give you a story about that. So last year, Ohio State, Michigan were playing. And obviously this place was just packed with Ohio State fans. I'm looking down over your shoulder is OMB. You know where we're at.
Yes.
Guys coming up the street just wearing big M on his shirt. And I'm just like, I'm sitting here with my kids and my wife, and I'm just like, I hope he doesn't come in here. Not because I don't want him here, because I just know Ohio State fans, like they're going to lose their minds.
Yep.
He gets right in front and turns right in, and I just beeline to the guy. I was like, look, owner, Protagonist, thanks for coming in. But I was like, I can't control everybody here. And then I remember walking back over to my kids, and I said, guys, that's what bravery looks like. So, yeah. So, but back to the whole thing is like, you have 600 people in here. It's like, it becomes really transactional, which is tough.
Yes.
Because you don't want the experiences to be transactional. You want that like interaction, but also you don't want people waiting in line for 30 minutes. And it's a hard thing we've tried so many different things to make our lines go down when it's busy, which that's a good problem to have.
Yes.
But as a customer, like standing in line for a beer for 30 minutes, just, what's going on here? So you kind of lose that, which I don't love, but those are the days that pay the bills. You know what I mean? So it's like, it's trying to find that balance of just having really good experience. But there's other ways you can create good experiences for people. And we're trying to get better at that every single day. It's just having those little moments where people feel like they mattered that they were here, and we care that they were here. That really matters.
Well, at least you have not got to the point of one local brewery where we went to a big event there, and we would get a beer and just go stand back in line because of the time we finished our beer. That's
honestly, like for game days, that's why we added pitchers.
Yeah.
Like we were adamant we're not doing pitchers. Like they're
Yeah.
gonna warm up, and I'm not going to do that.
Right.
But with Ohio State and the Browns, like now watch party for that. It's like we've got to commit to it. Like if that's what they want, like at the end of the day, it's like we can't be this like staunchy, like okay, this is what we're going to do. You're going to like it.
Yes.
You got to listen to your customers. So if they want it, and then of course on the game days, what's number one seller? Pitchers of beer.
Yep.
So it worked out.
Pictures of Hank.
Yeah. 100%. That and Dolly.
What's the best compliment that you've received?
I would say the best compliment we've ever gotten was from a private event. They had a great experience, and it was a I think it was a rehearsal dinner, and I think some stuff was going like bad at the beginning, and like it, and that's what I found. I'm kind of tangent, but I find like sometimes when people have bad experiences in some way, shape, or form, if you reach out and communicate with them personally, you can usually turn that around.
Yes.
And I'll say in general, that's kind of the best experiences that we've had. The best like reaction we've had is like someone says, there's been quite a few, you get a 1-star review and you're like, sometimes you're like, okay, yeah, we deserved that one. And you reach out and be like, hey, I'm so sorry that this is not what we're trying to accomplish here. Like, what can we do to make it better? Like reach out. And those are usually the ones that like you get customers for life. Like you get some 1-star reviews and you're just like, hey, they gave us 1-star review because we said they couldn't drink beer because they had an expired vertical ID. Well, yeah, of course, like we can't serve you. But the ones that have real complaints about something, if it's food quality, if there was an interaction that wasn't, or there was a miscommunication with someone on staff, if you reach out and you say, hey, really sorry, like I'd love to invite you back. What can we do to like make this right?
Right.
Those are usually the best responses. Like, thanks for taking the time to do that. Because I mean, we're all human beings.
Yes.
And most reviews are probably done out of emotion, which I get. So it's interacting with those people and kind of humanizing that side of it usually is usually when you get those like really positive like feedback from people.
Yeah. So how many of those reviews have been about a restroom?
All right, so I guess I'll set up the backstory. So there is, I think, a couple Reddit threads that my staff has shown me that about the urinal in the guy's bathroom here at our Loso location. There is a door that swings in, and there is a urinal, right? So if you're standing in that first urinal, you're in harm's way. Now, I have not told this story publicly, but that bathroom has not changed. That was Broken Spoke's bathroom when we moved in. Nothing's changed. So the door swung in when we were going through our like permits. They told us, hey, that's going to hit somebody. You need to move that. So we said, yeah, that makes sense. So then we had it swing out. Next inspector comes in and said, hey, this swings out. It's blocking a fire door. There's a fire exit here. It can't block that. So if someone opens that, they can't get out. Like, well, the last guy told us it couldn't swing in because it was gonna hit somebody. So then we moved it. This happened 3 times.
Oh, wow.
It went in, out, in. So the last time we had it moved back in, the next inspector, because the inspector's not always the same person.
Right.
So you're just getting whoever that is that day.
Yes.
So now it swings in, and now it has become, I think it's the best urinal in Charlotte, aka the worst urinal in Charlotte. And yeah, it's just, I don't know what to do about it because if we take it out, then we don't meet code and have enough urinals so then we can't
for
open
your
our doors
occupancy.
for our occupancy.
Yep.
So it's a conundrum that cannot be fixed.
Catch-22.
It is definitely a catch-22, and we might even make some merch out of it soon. Who knows?
Okay, there you go.
Who knows? Might as well
Hey, lean into it.
lean into it.
What's an insult that you received that you're kind of proud of?
Well, if you wouldn't have brought it up, I would say the urinal. But honestly, like, it's not insults, but it's like some of the reviews you get on Untapped, people forward to me, or even if it's like a Google review, where people have just the wildest reviews of beers on Untapped. Yeah, and even during like Craft Beer Week, like Charlotte Craft Beer Week, there's like a night where we read Untapped reviews. Yep. And it's just people. I mean, to me, it's like kind of funny because you don't know if are they being serious or are they just like actually like I've literally seen reviews of like a coffee beer, like a coffee stout or a coffee whatever order. Be like, I didn't love this beer. I don't really like coffee. I'm like, then why did you order that beer? It doesn't make any sense. Yeah. So it's just stuff like that, or like we had one right after Cal won the gold. One person just said Cal shouldn't win a gold. Okay. Sure, that's fine. That's okay.
Experts disagree.
Yeah. I mean, Untapped is one of those things. It's like, I think it's a great tool. It's a great social tool. Right. But everybody's an expert, right? Yep. Everybody's an expert. And honestly, like it's an opinion. Yes. It's great. If you don't think it meant gold, it's great. Yep. Bye. Get something else.
Still one of my favorites that another brewery actually made t-shirts, and the review was, I hate IPAs. That's like, okay, why'd you get an IPA for it?
Right. That makes sense. Yeah. Don't get it.
If you could go back and give your 18-year-old self some advice, what would that advice be?
That's a really hard question. I think that I'd say, and now that I have 2 kids, like these are probably the things I'll tell my kids. Experience a lot of stuff, travel, and it doesn't have to take a lot of money to do things. Like, honestly, like money is not always like what is important. Like your relationship with your friends, your family, experiencing other people, building relationships with other people. And that's the thing, is like moving to Charlotte was tough. Like, we moved away from our friends and family, which is hard to do. Like taking your less than 1-year-old grandson away from both sets of grandparents.
Yeah.
That wasn't an easy conversation. And moving away, like my wife and I went to first grade together. We've known each other since we were 6 years old.
Oh, wow.
So our group of friends is the same people. So moving away from that was a big leap to come down here and open this business with 2 buddies. But coming down here, like building relationships with new people has been so fruitful and so great. And it's been incredible. Like I know so many people in so many different walks of life here in Charlotte, just from meeting people. Like, brewery is that place, because like a lot of it stems from opening this business. And it's awarded me like other like things to be able to do, and other relationships that just open doors for other things. So it's like, oh yeah, I know somebody that does that. I can help you out with that. Or it does open up to help other people in other ways.
Right.
It's just building community. And like, that's the thing too, is like traveling experience, like coming from the Midwest is like, you're kind of in this, like, you're kind of sheltered. You don't know what you don't know. So like trying to get my kids to experience things that I didn't get to experience as a kid, I think will be huge. I would say as an 18-year-old kid going into college, like experience stuff. Absolutely. Just go, like, almost like that movie Yes Man, just say yes to everything.
Yes.
To a degree. But yeah, just experience stuff.
Right.
Yeah.
So yeah, my son has been all over the place playing soccer, and wherever he's at, I'm like, hey, you need to take an off day and go and see. He don't do it. Like,
yeah,
you're missing out.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And that's the thing, is like my wife and I are, for our 10-year wedding anniversary, we wanted to go to Italy in 2020. Obviously that didn't happen.
Yeah.
Because neither one of us have been to Europe. Like we went to Cabo for our wedding and our wedding honeymoon.
Yep.
And that's the only time I've been out of the country.
Oh wow.
Still to this day. So like, that's things that like I wish I would have experienced at a younger age, because there's obviously things now I'm never going to get to experience. But I definitely want to do it for my kids for sure.
Yep. And some places really change.
Yeah.
Because I know when I visited Dubai and Abu Dhabi back in the early 90s.
Salt sand.
Yeah, it was not what it is today.
Based on the pictures I've seen, I'm like, I want to go back. Yeah, now flights are probably $4,000 just to get there.
Yeah, absolutely. Tell me about the 3 most influential people that you've encountered in this industry and how they've impacted you.
There's definitely some people here locally that I admire. I'll say like our neighbor who now I think you did the first podcast with, Marcus. I've liked, like, since we moved in here, even before we moved in here, we were in NODA. Marcus and I hit it off really, really well. I mean, he's a Ohio State and Browns guy. Like, yeah, those are the 2 watch parties that even though I'm not a Browns guy.
Yeah.
I really am a big fan of Marcus. I think he's just a great guy. He was a great steward for Sugar Creek.
Yep.
And I think Triple C hiring him was that's such a great ad.
Yes.
Just a great beer person, just even better person, just fantastic. I would say, honestly, like Jeremy leaving us, like even though he was our employee, like Jeremy taught me a lot about beer specifically, like being a home brewer and then coming in and knowing, like, that's the smartest thing we did, was knowing we could not be the brewers. We had to hire somebody.
Right.
And that was a relentless process, but Jeremy has been invaluable for us as a business to kind of like take the business mind that we had and what our hopes and dreams were versus like what really beer is.
Right.
And then I'd say, I've had some people that have really helped me understand what it's like to create great experiences for people. And there's multiple books that I've been turned on to from different people that I've read, and just about creating great experiences for people. And again, we're still trying to get good at that, and we're just still scratching the surface. And I think that's the difference, especially in an age where everything is so on your phone and so like social media, internet. I think people are craving for those interaction and those experiences that you can't replicate on these devices.
Right.
And I think, I'm not trying to get into the weeds here, but like, I mean, I think that's the biggest pandemic that we have is lonely. People are lonely. Like loneliness is such a huge thing. So people being able to come out to a physical place and knowing that they're cared about and they can have a great experience every single time they come into a place. Like, yeah, it's not going to be like Walt Disney World every time you walk in, but there's little moments that you can create for people that are memorable.
Absolutely.
And it doesn't have to be major things. Like we're just starting to do this thing where like any family that comes in, we're going to, if they have a kid, like just walk up to the kid and give them a cookie. Like, I know it's hard with parents. Some people, I don't want to have a cookie. I know it's hard, but like just that, like if they say no, that's fine, not a problem. But just like say, hey, thanks for coming.
Yeah.
And like a kid's going to remember that. Like, let's go to the place that gives me the cookies. Like I love that. Like, so just little stuff like that where it's not a huge lift. And yeah, we pay money for the cookies, but it's like, you want the little kid to have a great experience. Like,
absolutely.
I feel like for me, like kind of off topic here, like every time we go by Starbucks now with my kids, they don't drink coffee. They just want cake pops all the time. I took them there one time to get cake pops, and I swear in the last year I've bought about 100 cake pops because they just love cake pops.
Right.
And it's like, that's the reward. Is go with dad to Starbucks before school to get a cake pop.
Yeah.
And it's like, but it's so simple. It's such a little thing. I wish they were free, but having like making like the experiential part of what we do like front and center. There's been multiple people that have really helped me with that. Yeah. Awesome. So I couldn't say just one person.
Yeah. Well, you want to give people an opportunity to create a story to tell.
Yeah, and I think that kind of goes back to, and we've utilized that a little bit just because Protagonist is like the main character in a story, and like, and that's how we kind of expand on it. It's kind of how we look at ourselves, and I think some people may take Protagonist as like, oh, you think you're like the most important person? No, it's the protagonist is not always the person that's doing the right thing. Their goal is to do the right thing. They want to do right well. Like any story, like you make mistakes, and like we'll be the first people to say we make mistakes all the time. Yeah. But to me, it's like coming down to like, how do you react to those mistakes? Yes. How do you not repeat those mistakes and learn from those mistakes? And I think I mean, everybody knows that, but actually doing that, and like, I mean, I make mistakes constantly. But the way I look at it is if I can look back at myself a year from now, just kind of like I look at myself a year ago, if I can say I'm better than I was a year ago, then we're doing the right thing. Right. And that's what I try to tell my kids, like, just get that much better every day. Just that much. Super simple. But it takes time and it takes effort. Oh, yeah. For sure.
Absolutely. What's a common myth about owning a brewery?
I think people know more now, but I think at some point people are like, you just drink beer all day. Like, I don't drink at all. Like, I had Corey brought me taste some stuff earlier, but it's just like, I'm sitting there on my computer. I'm like, yeah, that's the thing. We sell 30% of our sales from this thing, but like, I'm trying to do some financial stuff. Like, why are you bringing this beer on? But it's, I think there's a couple things. It's like brewing specifically, people think it's like this elegant like thing. It's like brewing is like 85% cleaning. You're just cleaning constantly. Yep. And then just like operating a place that has multiple like business units in it. Like we've got a production facility. We've got an outside sales team. We've got a tap room, like a front of house tap room. We've got a kitchen. We've got a private event staff. So you've got multiple little business units within one. So it takes a lot of effort. And like with us, like just in this place, we have 6 ABC permits, 6 just to operate the businesses that we need to. And it takes a lot of time and effort. So it's a lot of computer work. It's a lot of spreadsheets. It's a lot of just tracking data. But I'm a nerd like that. So I'm okay with that kind of stuff. But it's not just in here just like popping bottles of Saison DuPont all the time and having a great time. But I think it goes to there is like those moments where you kind of sit back when I'm in here, because I work from the tap room a lot.
Mm-hmm.
You get to look back and see people having whatever they're talking, like if it's a business meeting or if it's just a couple talking and they've got a kid with them, or if it's a first date or whatever it may be, you can kind of sit back and say, we all created this together for this experience to happen, which is it's fun. Like, you don't always think that way.
Yeah.
But it is nice when you can kind of do that, especially when you come here and I'm not in a working capacity and I can bring a friend in, or if I'm here with my family and we're packed and everybody's like enjoying, if it's an Ohio State game or if we have some other event going on, you get to see people like just have a great time. There's nothing better than that. Yep. It's worth all the hard work that comes with doing these things.
Nice.
Yeah.
What's the biggest challenge that you're facing in your role?
I think just beer industry right now is kind of in flux. I think we have not, as a business, had a normal year. I mean, opened in 2019 at 1,500 square feet, wanted to expand in 2020. COVID happened in 2020, affected us in 2020, affected us in 2021, even into 2022. I think 2023 was like our first normal year, even though like beer is kind of like craft beer is trending and downward, because like you got like RTDs, you've got a lot of non-alcoholic stuff coming, CBD drinks, and there's so much competition out there now. Like, what's the new hot thing that you got to kind of have to compete with?
Right.
So that's why I think like beer is a catalyst for a lot of everything that we do. It's very important to what we do. But it's also, like we said earlier, offering as much as we can to people, but never losing focus on the beer and creating beers that are classic in what we do. Like, we have like elevated, like classic styles, but also what can we create that's still beer, but like that's kind of pushes that envelope a little bit, that introduces us to new people. But I think it's also, it's just creating great experiences for people like that. I think that is what the name of the game is right now. Unfortunately, over the next 12 months, we're probably going to see more brewery closures. It's unfortunate, but I think it's going to happen. Yes. I think a lot of places, you got your PPP money, your ERC money, and I think that's dying down because beer sales are down. So if you can't supplement that with anything else, if it's liquor, non-alcoholic, private events, like we're really pushing private events right now because it helps drive people into our business. So those are the things we're really focusing on. But what's nice about having private events and expanding our outside sales footprint as well, as much as we can outside of our doors, is you're not just relying on having four walls and selling beer and that's it, because there's so much competition out there that offers multiple things, that if you're just offering beer and you've got a big footprint and you've invested into a lot of brewing equipment because you thought you were going to expand, and it's really hard to do that right now.
Right.
It's tough. There's exceptions obviously to every rule, but thriving as a brewery right now in the isolated space, it's difficult. Navigating what we're going through right now is not easy, but we're doing our best to do that.
So, I think the days of just a small tap room with beer only, I think those days are over unless you're in an extremely small market.
Yeah, I think that it is tough. Like, you can't just open. Like 10 years ago, you could have opened a place. Doesn't matter what it looks like. If you offer beer, like, you'll be somewhat successful. Right. And I think as new places open, it's like, what can you offer that the next, like, and everybody's just getting better. Like, the beer scene here is incredible. Like, it's really, really good. Yes. And that's a good thing. Yes. But it's hard when you got, like, when you say 65, 70 breweries, and all of them do something really well. Right. So it's like, you only have so many people, and maybe more people are going to breweries. Not as many people are going to breweries now as there were. So there's less to go around. It's kind of like just when you go to Harris Theater. Like 10 years ago, you go to the wine aisle, it's massive, and the beer aisle is not very big. Now the beer aisle looks just like the wine aisle. Right. It's how do you pick? Yes. How do you do that? So it's the same kind of thing. It's like, okay, we're going to go to a brewery. Well, where are we going? So I think the way I see things going is like, it's going to become very neighborhood centric. Yes. It's not like, the nice thing about here, like, very smartly or dumb by us, we put ourselves in between OMB and Sugar Creek. So two of like the big hitters, like, hey, let's just go right in between. But what it created this like circle of like experience. So you got OMB, you got us, you got Queen Park Social across the street, you got Sugar Creek, you got Lower Left, you've got 4001 Yancey right there. We had Good Road down the street here. You got Red Clay over there. I mean, there's a lot of things to do around here.
Right.
So this is like a neighborhood that like people just go to. So it's not like, some people come to here to OMB specifically, but a lot of people, let's go to Loso and just hit them all up. Let's just go do that. That's the thing.
Yep.
So, and I think that's what we're going to see is like, you're going to see a lot more like neighborhoody. So you're not going to see these bigger places like we built here 4 years ago. They're going to be more like neighborhood driven tap rooms. And that's what our plan is to do, is to open up more of those neighborhood driven like tap rooms.
Like I told some people, after 5 years of doing Beer with Me Charlotte, I decided to shut it down because that is the way it is, because a lot of breweries are becoming that more neighborhood centric and people are getting plugged into those breweries and that's their place.
Right.
So they know what's going on and you don't necessarily, I mean, there's still some that are chasing the rare bottle and, standing in line, I guess.
Right.
But, for the most part, people are not doing that anymore. So,
yeah, it's almost impossible to become that as a brewery now too. Like to get those lines waiting for your beer. It's just like, I remember this was like 8 years ago. I remember every year when Hop Slam came out, it was just like, it was an event.
Right.
And you're like, okay, you get on Untappd. Where is it? Like, where's it dropping? Like, let's go get some.
Yep.
Or like me up in Ohio, like Zombie Dust was that. Like you just had, where can I get some Zombie Dust?
Right.
And there was some fun in that, you know what I mean?
Oh, yeah.
So it's like now that everything's available, like, that's boring. I don't want that anymore. So that's why it always comes back to like, what kind of experience can we create for people? Cause like those rare beers that you can maybe, the hunt was the fun part. You know what I mean? It's like, and then if you get there's like the specialness to it. And I think that's what like, you think about like Treehouse Brewing, like they perfected that.
Oh yeah.
You're like, I can get a 4-pack online on eBay of like Julius for like $90. Like, and now I feel bad when I put a $7 pint on it, you know what I mean? So it's like, it's completely different than what it was, but like that hype and that marketing, marketing is such a huge part of the business that we're in right now too, is like, how do you get people to come into your place versus all the other great places that are here? I'm
glad to hear you say you have a $4 beer, because that's almost unheard of now.
Yeah, I think we did that probably 6 months ago, just saying like, what, not everybody wants to pay $6 for a beer, $7 for a beer. Like we definitely feel our beer is worth that price because that's what everybody's charging.
Right.
But not everybody wants that. So if we can have something where, okay, say you have a $6 pint here, you may only have 2 of those. Well, maybe I'll have 3 of the Hank. Right. You know what I mean? So at the end of the day, they're spending the same amount of money and they actually got 3 instead of 2 beers.
Yes.
But it is something that's like, we're still making money off of it, obviously. And it's just like, it's nice to have one of those beers instead of carrying like a Miller Lite or PBR or whatever it may be, having that in here, let's make our own.
Yes.
Now taking up tank space, I don't have to buy another 30 barrel fermenter, but
yeah. But also I've heard from some beer drinkers are like, I can't afford craft beer anymore.
Yeah, I get it. I understand. And we try to mitigate that as much as possible. I think we do a pretty good job about having a $4 beer on, but like when we have beer that ages out, we continue to drop the price. And we're pretty strict about aged out beers. Any IPA that we have on, if we've done a batch, if it's more than 2 or 3 months old, we start to drop the price to get it out. Now it helps with tank space, but it's also like, I'm not going to charge you full price for a beer that's not exactly what we wanted it to be.
So he said in the last episode, IPAs need to be Drake fresh.
It's wild. Like if I drink, if I go back and want a tank, like if say our hazy IPA Mercury is available and you take that first pour and you're just like, if it tasted like this all the time, I would drink hazy IPAs all the time. But it's just like, it's that declining effect, which it's hard, but yeah, it should be fresh. I wish I could do like 2 barrel batches all the time, like just continually to be fresh, but like it's just, from an efficiency standpoint, it makes 0 sense.
Absolutely.
So yeah.
Absolutely. Yeah, you go through 2 barrels real quick. What's the most important lesson that you learned since you've started in this industry?
It's okay to tell people you don't know the answer. I learned that early on, but I think that knowing that you don't know the answer, but being able to find the answer to something and being okay. Like if we're at a management meeting and people are looking at me to answer a question, I have no idea. I don't know. Let's figure this out together. I think that kind of like that vulnerability to your staff to say like, I don't know the answer to this. Let's find out together. Let's learn that together. I think that's huge. And I try to empower my staff to say the exact same thing to me. Like if I ask you a question, if you don't know the answer, great, let's go find the answer. You know what I mean? So it's like, you don't have to know everything, but being resourceful enough to be able to find the answer and collectively find those answers, I think is important.
Absolutely. What do you feel is the most important trait or strength that someone needs to have to be successful in this business?
Resiliency. I mean, there's so much headwinds for us in the beer industry. And I'll give you a funny story. Even like when we were contemplating open a brewery, where I used to work in Ohio, one of the like agents that worked for us said, "Oh, I know the guy that owns Sweetwater," and I was like, I'd love to talk to him. You know what I mean? Like, because we had toured it down there, and like that is a facility. Like that is a massive facility. And I remember he talked to him for me, and he said this. He said he had one piece of advice for you: don't do it. That was his advice. But I think that it's relentless. It's like relentless. There's always something going on. Like now that we've been open here 3.5 years, like it's great if everything works all the time. But you walk in one day and your ice machine's leaking. Oh, great, the ice machine's leaking. Or you're sitting here and the health department shows up for your kitchen while you're in the middle of the rush. Great. Or ALE shows up, or something breaks on a chiller while you've got stuff actively fermenting out there. It's just, there's constant fires. But I mean, that's how it is with every business has its stuff. So I think that's not just a beer industry thing, but I think just resiliency and just being optimistic, which it's hard. But yeah, I think just having endless resiliency is important. Yeah.
Very good.
Yeah.
What's one lesson that you've learned in this industry that you think everyone should learn at some point?
One lesson. I think I said this early on, but I think, and it's a hard thing to learn when you have a large staff, is just letting people do their jobs. That's a hard thing to learn to do, especially, we got 35 employees, and I can't like work with everybody every single day. I try to make myself available as much as I possibly can, but I think it's just trust your staff and hire staff that you do trust. You're never gonna be exactly right, but I'll add a little bit further. It's also when you do have a staff, one person can make it hard for everybody. So creating a good culture is important, not just at the top. And I don't like to say at the top, but one person can cause a lot of problems in something. We've been lucky that we haven't had a lot of that, but it can systemically cause bad culture at a place. And and being able to like identify that and try to work on that as much as possible. Because being a Midwesterner, I'm very loyal. I'm a very loyal person.
Right.
So I try to work those things as much as possible. But I think just making sure that everybody feels, not just the customers that we talked about earlier that feel really good when they walk in the door. I want my staff to feel the same way.
Oh yeah. You
want them to come in and feel like they're valued and that they matter. And it's I will say it's hard sometimes when you do have so many people, and there's been times where like we hire somebody new and like, of course I'll put them in like payroll and all that stuff. And then like, they've been here a month and I haven't even seen them. You know what I mean? Because I'm here before everybody else in the day, and I leave around 4 o'clock, pick up my son at school. So like, a lot of people only work at night, so I don't even see them for a month. So it's hard to like be here present with your staff all the time, but just trying to make an effort to at least like say, hey, tell me a little about yourself, like all that. So I've definitely gotten better at that over the years.
Awesome. What's one thing about your job or your role in this industry that almost no one agrees with you about?
Bourbon is better than beer. No, I'm kidding. I don't know if everybody agrees with this, but I think even more than beer quality, anything that we do, all those things are really important. But marketing is the most important thing for our business by far. And it doesn't have to be, we got to have influencers come in or we got to spend all this kind of money for ads and all this stuff. It's like organic marketing, like letting people see your actual personality as a business. Like, just like simple things that don't take a lot of time. Like our most recent post, like Grayson, one of our bartenders, we have now made him our official mascot as a business. And some of the roles he plays, he's Captain Pizza. So we just have this pizza flag that he rides around and looks like a superhero. And that is like the antithesis of our personality at this place is like, why not have a Captain Pizza? We sell pizza here. So to me, like that is most important, is like marketing yourself and making it as genuine as possible. Because like, you take these great pictures of a pint right in front of you, but like, is that real? That's not anybody actually enjoying the beer. Like we need more pictures of people actually enjoying themselves in the space, or what our personality is when people aren't here, when we're the dumb stuff we talk about here as a team. Like that's the personality because we're the people serving you. So like that's the personality we're trying to like show you through our social media and the marketing that we do and the events that we throw.
Grayson's a great kid.
He is. He's a great.
I enjoy talking to him.
Don't tell him.
Hey, don't listen to this.
No, but the thing is, Grayson's been with us since the beginning. I mean, since we at least opened this place. He started working at Noda, and then he started working here once we opened. But yeah, he's been with us since we opened this location.
Wow.
So yeah,
that's good. Yeah, that's good. What's your favorite productivity hack?
Well, as I said, like letting your staff do their jobs is just, you got to set up your key KPIs as a business, like your key performance indicators, like we call them OKRs. It takes a lot of time, but just like it allows you to focus on the things that you need to focus on. So like one of our goals is to make sure 30% of our beer sales, our sales, overall sales, is taproom beer sales, because this is what we've spent our time, money, and effort to build.
Right.
So that can help us drive our business decisions. So every decision we make is to hit these things based on our core values we've created as a business.
Right.
And there's some good books about how to do those things. The one I read was called Traction, and it helps you implement what's called a entrepreneurial operating system. And it really puts into perspective, like, why do you do these things? Because you can, like if someone said, hey, we've got this great real estate deal for you. Okay, sure, it's a cool idea. Let's go do that. It's like there's a new squirrel, like a new nut for a squirrel to find.
Yep.
But if you're not focusing on the things that matter to your business now, like your core values, your core focus as a business, like you're gonna start just throwing things out there. So trying to make sure like every decision we make is based on those key performance indicators that we've set up from the beginning is really, really important now. But if you just tactically, like to be efficient, like one thing, Slack. Use Slack.
Yeah.
Email to me is like, I can't find what the heck we talked about 6 months ago, but like everything in Slack, I can set up reminders and all these things. Like to me, like that's been great for the business to like set up.
Yep. I've used that before. It's pretty good.
It is.
And I think you're the first person in the brewing industry that I've ever heard talk about KPIs.
Really?
Yeah.
Wow.
But I mean, it's a great benchmark. I mean, you always have, you have to meet this.
Yeah. And it flows down. It's like, okay, so say like Lindsay, who is our sales manager. So we have a corporate goal of, say it's hit X barrels in outside sales. So what we want is like her comp is going to be based on that too. You know what I mean? So it's like, it's not just like, oh, we want to hit this, like go do it.
Right.
It's like, we want all of us to be going towards that same goal.
Right.
So if our corporate goal is that, okay, let's do this. Or if it's hey, we want to make sure that our cost of goods in the kitchen is this, okay, bonus your kitchen manager on that. If it's make sure that our labor number isn't hitting what it needs to hit, okay, all the managers like make sure it hits that. Like that's now I'm not a a demon. Like there's extenuating circumstances for things, but you put a lot of time and effort to put those numbers in. But they also fluctuate. So depending on what our goals are for 2024 versus like quarter 4, quarter 1, you can modify those things. But it's not like you can just flip a switch like that. But
yeah, and I think teams operate much better when there's actually a goal.
Yeah,
instead of you come in and do your job and you go home and you really haven't know what the big picture is.
Yeah, like what is that famous quote? Like, if you don't know where you're going, you might just get there, kind of thing. Like, so what are we doing here? Like, what are we trying to accomplish?
Yep.
So if you don't know what you're trying to accomplish, why are you here?
Right.
You know what I mean?
Yep.
And I get it. Like, we all have lives outside of this, and like sometimes you just want to go sit on the couch with the kids and watch a movie or something. But it just kind of helps like steer the boat.
Yeah.
Kind of thing.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Very good. So what's an underrated tool or tools that you find indispensable for your job?
My car. I would say, honestly, our POS system is so big in what we try to do, because like it's not just like punching numbers and do that. There's so many things that our POS system can do. It allows like greater interaction, especially if like we are super busy. Like people can order from their tables. I mean, there's so much that we have in the space that it's like so many things like go into play and that help us succeed in this business. So I know I'm not really giving you a good answer, but like I wouldn't even know what the best tool.
Yeah.
Honestly, I think the most important thing as a business is communication. Like making sure like I'm always trying to get better at it. Everybody's trying to get better at it. But I think having communication tools where we have the ability to reach out to each other when we need to. So I'll just say Slack is the most important thing to the business. Yeah.
Cool. Yeah. If you could start another business tomorrow, what would it be?
Well, I am starting one. So
all right.
I'm actually opening a pickleball concept up at Camp North End.
Okay.
It's called Tipsy Pickle. We announced it back in October.
Okay.
I don't know if you know Tanner that started the Hop app here in Charlotte.
Yeah.
He's at all the breweries.
Yeah.
Him and I have teamed up to open that up.
Okay.
So architecture is almost done. We will probably break ground late March and hopefully open late September, early October. So
nice.
Look out for Tipsy Pickle coming late 2024.
Man, pickleball. Has that exploded or what?
It really has. And like Raleigh just opened up down the street here. And I know a lot of like parks are like transitioning to the, making the tennis players really upset, but they're turning a lot of tennis courts into pickleball courts.
Right.
And again, like that whole thing is like, I have found doing this is that I really enjoy bringing people together. And that's the similarities between the brewery that we've built and we want to expand because we really like the taproom experience. But that's what like Tipsy Pickle is going to be, is just creating a space where people just have a great time. Now it's not just going to be pickleball. You're going to have golf simulators, darts, pool table, like all kinds of stuff inside the space. Obviously a lot of Protagonist Beer.
You doing the real darts? You doing electronic darts?
Real darts.
Yeah.
Yeah. We do electronic darts. It's not even darts. So yeah, that's my next venture. We got a couple other things that may do. So I'm really leaning into like small business operator and just really like finding roots here in Charlotte.
Yeah.
To build a lot of like hospitality concepts that I've always like thought about. And now that I feel pretty confident in opening and building these things, trying to do more of them.
Yeah. Is there any other occupation other than your own that you would like to try?
I mean, as a kid, like I always wanted to be a Major League Baseball player. Always, but I was pretty good. I was okay.
Yeah.
Like just being on MLB, like playing for the Cincinnati Reds, like was my dream as a child. Or a pro golfer. Like I love golf. Like you can play golf till you're 80 years old as long as my knees are still good in 30 years. So yeah, honestly, if I just pick right now, if I could just do one thing and make money at it, would be golfing, 100%.
Yeah. Nice.
Be awesome. And if I didn't have to travel for it, if I could just play Quail Hollow every weekend and play in golf tournaments and make money, that'd be great. Definitely.
Awesome.
Yeah.
This being a alcohol industry,
Yeah.
what kind of safeguards do you have in place to make sure that that your team and your people are not becoming dependent?
That we are not becoming dependent?
Yes.
We are pretty good self-policing.
Mm-hmm.
The same like things that we do to make sure our customers are not overserved, we do the same thing with our employees. So like, none of our employees can serve themselves an alcoholic beverage here.
Nice.
And if you can't drink on the clock, obviously.
Mm-hmm.
But if you're not working and you get your post-shift beers, you got to sit on the other side of the bar. We treat you just like another customer. And you got to turn your Protagonist t-shirt inside out. So nobody, so we're pretty good. And we don't,
I've actually seen that.
we don't let our staff, like we give free beers to our staff, like
Mhm.
post-work and stuff like that. But we don't allow like liquor drinks for free. Like you got to pay full price for those. But yeah, once you cross that side, you're a customer to us.
Yeah.
So we're very, very cognizant of that. Yeah.
Outstanding.
Yeah.
What are the 3 best beers that you've had in the past year?
I would say I'll do one of ours, one classic and one new. Do that. I think the best beer that I've had from us in the last year, God, that was so hard to beat. Actually, I opened the first medal we ever won was for a beer called Air is Beautiful. It was another saison,
Mhm.
of course. That was rested on like kumquats. And we still had some of the original bottles it was the first beer we ever put into packaging ever in our Noda location.
Yeah.
I opened a bottle of that this year and it's still just incredible.
Yeah.
Really, really. I think we've got like 4 bottles left of it. We've just been holding on to them.
Yeah.
I would say just classic beers that I always love. There's a couple, like, it's really hard. Honestly, I am a huge Guinness person. I love Guinness. I've always been a Guinness person. There's nothing better than like a nice, like crisp day outside and just pouring a Guinness. Like I love it. I love Guinness.
Just wait till you get to Europe and you taste the difference.
Yeah, I know. Yeah. The story of Guinness is hilarious to me too. Like how they got their lease and all that stuff.
Yeah.
Like that's an incredible story.
Yep.
And then I'd say new beers that are not ours. I'd say in the last year that XV from Sugar Creek next door.
Oh yes.
Just incredible.
Yes.
So good. Really, really love that beer.
That's like one of my all-time favorites.
Yeah, it's 15%.
Yeah, but actually my overall favorite is the rum barrel aged version.
Oh yeah, I had.
Yeah.
Yeah,
That's really
I
good.
just tasted that. Yeah, that's good.
Is there any question that I didn't ask that you wish I had of?
No, but I'll ask you a question.
Okay.
You even said like you shut down your Facebook page and all that stuff.
Mm-hmm.
What have you seen over the last 5 years in the beer industry, and how, like, I don't want to say an outsider, but as as a
Professional consumer?
as a professional consumer, how have you kind of seen the transition from like how the beer industry is looked at
Mhm.
now here locally,
Right.
versus like the actual quality of the beer that is in Charlotte right now?
The quality of beer overall has exponentially went up.
Mhm.
I mean, it's incredible. There is absolutely incredible beer.
Yeah.
Used to be just a handful of breweries in the city had the really great beer.
Mm-hmm.
But now there's a lot of great beer all over.
Yeah.
Which has, I think, caused somewhat of more competition, and people don't have to travel to get really good beer.
Right.
So they're also getting plugged into their neighborhood brewery, and they know everything that's going on there. So us promoting events, to a large group of people, they already know it. They already know where they're going.
Mm-hmm.
They already know what beers are coming out.
Right.
And people are just not chasing beer like they used to. Like I said earlier, there's people are not standing in line for bottles anymore.
Yeah. I think bourbon replaced it.
Yeah. Yes, absolutely. Bourbon is like that today. But yeah, I've seen that change with the plethora of breweries that we have, you don't have to go all over the city to find really great beer. And you get plugged into a spot and you call your own.
Yeah.
Where everybody knows your name.
Right.
Where everybody knows your name.
100%. Everybody wants their cheers, right?
Yeah. Yeah. So that's been the biggest reason that we shut down Beer with Me Charlotte is we felt that what we wanted to accomplish had been done.
Yeah.
So
I mean, it was definitely something I saw when I first moved here in 2019. And I saw the logo. I was like, is that logo flicking me off? I always thought that. But yeah, that was the thing is like, there was so much to keep up with too.
Oh yeah.
It was not an easy job. I'm sure it was like back in 2015, it was way easier.
Oh yeah. It kept getting more and more. The more breweries that came on board. And I mean, sometimes, it'd be a month or two before I'd even learn that a new brewery was open. I was like, oh crap.
Yeah, I feel terrible. There's a ton of breweries I haven't even been to yet.
Yeah.
It's tough. I mean, we've all got our lives. I've got 2 little kids and 4 and 6 years old.
Yeah.
It's a lot, but but I'm sure they're all great. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like a lot of them, they probably do at least something really well.
Right.
So yeah.
Even in 5 years, I have not made it to every brewery, especially those that have been open, around Lake Norman and Mooresville. I have not made it up that way since they've been open.
Yeah.
So where can people find you online?
We are www. Don't forget that part. .protagonistbeer.com. And there is a Find Your Beer link on there.
Okay.
We're in a good amount of accounts out throughout the city. I think we're like maybe 60, 80 accounts here in Mecklenburg County. Most of them are draft. We do some canning, not a ton. But also we are in South Carolina now as well.
I was going to mention it earlier. I didn't see that.
So kind of the middle part, if just over in like Fort Mill down to Columbia, like Columbia area has our beer now too. So it's been a really good relationship with them.
I think y'all did your South Carolina launch at the Vault Bottle Shop.
We did.
Which was the episode that just came out this past week.
Nice.
Was with Brent. So
yeah, we did. It was April of last year that we went down to South Carolina because we're like, well, we go up north a little bit. They're just as close down over the hill there. So, so it's been a good partnership for sure. But yeah, at Protagonist Beer on Instagram, just search Protagonist Beer on Facebook. And we don't really do much TikToking.
Right.
And then on Twitter, we do some on there.
Cool.
Yeah.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Thank you so much for being on this episode of Behind the Beer.
For sure.
It's been a pleasure.
Absolutely. Thanks, man.
Thank you.
Yep.
And catch us again very soon on another episode of Behind the Beer.
Thank you for joining us for this episode of Behind the Beer. Please rate and review us on your favorite listening platform. Subscribe to us on YouTube at youtube.com/@behindthebeer. If you would like to be a guest on Behind the Beer, email us at behindthebeer2020@gmail.com. Behind the Beer is produced by BWM Productions.